So every once in a while, I get surprised by something, and it's usually something that I think I know. And as I get older, what I think I know and what's actually true can be a little separated. So I was really excited to take some time to learn about or relearn about a event in history that really inspires me and surprises me and also gives me a lot of hope for humanity. It was the Christmas Truce, and that happened in World War One. Now, I had thought this only took place in one spot on one night, and we're going to learn I was very wrong. And I also thought it was something that just sort of happened. Again, I was wrong. There was more that was happening in the background. Now, the war had been raging for 5 months, and this was a war unlike any other war that's been fought before. And since this is for younger people, I'm not going to go into the details, but if you would like to go and look up what the trenches were like, do so at your own discretion. I will just tell you that it was very unlike anything that had ever been fought before and was very surprising for people around. And there was a lot of deep concern about what this was doing to everyone. That includes the new pope. And the new pope, who had been just sworn in, called for peace. On December 7th, he issued an appeal to the leaders of Europe. And he asked that the guns may fall silent, at least upon the night the angels sang. So when Christmas Eve comes, which is, a few weeks afterwards, something really surprising happens all across the front, not just in one event, one place like I had thought, and not just for one night like I had thought. This happened all over the place. And a lot of times it started with a song or a ball or things that people had, what soldiers had in their own pockets, and they just exchanged it. So here's just a few of the stories that took place on the front on the evening of Christmas Eve, 1914. You can also, by the way, find some really incredible letters that were written home by soldiers. And one of the things that I loved reading about and seeing was how many of these soldiers do what I do, which is whenever I'm writing something, I always doodle on the side. So you have these beautiful illustrations of soldiers playing ball or a little Christmas tree. And it was lovely in seeing how human we are, even in the most horrifying of circumstances. So on Christmas Eve, Rifleman Graham Williams was standing guard, and he said that all of a sudden the lights appeared along the German trench. All of a sudden, lights appeared along the German trench. And I thought, this is a funny thing. And then the Germans started singing. And I'm not going to try my German's horrible. Silent Night. But in German, sorry, I cannot speak German and I will not try to offend anyone by trying. And I woke up and all the sentries did the same thing. All woke up. The other people to come along and see this and what on earth was going on. He recalled this to the BBC show, which was called Witness in History. It's a great show. Their voices carried across the desolation of no man's land. So no man's land is the space in between trenches. And it's called no man's land because nothing was actually supposed to be above the trench line for their own safety. The voices carried across the desolation of no man's land, familiar songs bridging the barrier of language, a musical reminder of our shared humanity. They finished their carol and we applauded them, and we thought we should retaliate in some way, and so we did, singing back to them the first Noel. My goodness. So this happened because the German Emperor William II wanted to bring up the spirits of his soldiers. So he sent Christmas trees to the front to bolster the morale. And that's when the German started singing Silent Night, which led to the British singing back First Noel. So this repeats across the Western Front spontaneously and in various locations. And it lasted, depending on how close the front was to more of like the goings on, it would last for up to an hour to all the way until Boxing Day. One soldier, Colonel Scott Shepard, then a junior officer, was fighting near the town of in northern France. And he woke up on Christmas morning and he said that the fog was so thick you could not see your hand in front of your face. So they decided that they're going to take advantage of this moment of complete lack of visibility, and they go out into no man's land and do some repairs on the trenches. Now, Mr. Shepard said that it was so fast that the fog just went away. And there they were standing in the middle of no man's land. And they turned very slowly to look over at the German side. And there were the Germans doing the exact same thing, doing the repairs, taking advantage of that lack of visibility, stepping out of the trenches. And they were both completely vulnerable and open to each other. And the one man and then another man start walking to the center of no man's land. And once the two sides got to the center, they held out their hands and they shook hands and they patted around at their jackets to find whatever things they might have in their jackets to hand as gifts. Rifle Brigade wrote to his wife on Christmas Day describing the ceasefire as an extraordinary state of affairs. Because the trenches were so close, soldiers were able to shout greetings to each other and start conversations. A German shouted out that they wanted a day's truce and it would come out if they agreed. This was from one of the generals. Very cautiously, one of our men lifted himself above the parapet and saw a German doing the same. Both got out and then more. They have been walking about together all day, giving each other different gifts and singing songs and playing soccer or football if you're over on the other side. Colonel Johannes Niemann, a second lieutenant with the 33rd Saxon Regiment, was one of the soldiers who took part. Suddenly a Tommy came with a football and then began a football match. We marked our goals with our caps. The Tommy did too, and we had much kicking. And then, after all, the Germans won the football game 3-2. Tommies were what they called the British soldiers. This had a huge effect on the soldiers and everyone who experienced it. For a brief moment, the soldiers on both sides saw each other as fathers, brothers, sons, who just want to go home and return to their loved ones rather than face faceless enemies. Several of them who spoke English, they expressed their dislike of the war as a whole, and they said that they had been to London, they'd been to England, and gave every indication that they were glad to meet us. And that was a direct letter. I'm not talking about this because of religion. I'm not even talking about this because of a holiday. I'm talking about this because this is probably one of the most beautiful human moments in history, where a group of people who in a different hour, a different moment, would have had a very different interaction with each other. But because of some extraordinary circumstances, they played football and they sang songs together. So I wish you all the most peaceful of New Year's, the calmest and most joyful of years. And when we are asking questions about history and about our place in this world, this is a story I often come back to. All right, I run 2 podcasts, so I'm just going to give you my tagline from my other podcast, which is to be kind, be gentle, and in whatever way it looks like to you, be as fierce as you can, especially if it's taking care of each other. If you have any interest in history and you have some stories you would like me to look up, please feel free to message us. While this is not a baby podcast anymore, it is still not advertised. So anytime I get a new listener, it's entirely because you are kind enough to go onto Apple Podcasts and give it a review and to share it with your friends and family and your learning communities. I will try to post more this year. It is a goal of mine, and I wish you all the best.